Hey boys and girls, I'm coming to you live from my back porch. It's such a beautiful day. I've enjoyed staying out here and working. I hope you've had a great week, and I'm looking forward to hearing from all of you. I have some important messages and some resources for you to use as you go dive into week 3. So I'll go ahead and get started, but I want you to know that I do miss you and love you, and you mean the world to me, so I hope you are staying busy. This week here's some important info for you to know. Next week is spring break, so there's no work during spring break. And Easter is on April 12th, so happy Easter. And our week 3 packet will run from April 2nd through April 15th. You can pick up your new packet at Hodges at school on April 16th, and at that time you'll return your packets 1 through 3. Completed, you'll turn those in when you get your new packets. It's a workbook and a choice board for science and social studies. We'll continue to have our Zoom meetings Monday through Thursdays at 1:30 and 7 p.m. I've started a 4th grade honeybees Facebook group, so please join that if you haven't already. And students, check your Google Classroom for morning message and a daily check-in form. A lot of you have already done that. And questions I had from the daily check-in form. One was, can students have a private Zoom meeting? And the answer is yes, you can. Just please contact whichever teacher you need to schedule a time or complete the form. I'll have a sign-up. We can have a sign-up form if that's easier. And another question was, when do we start IXL? Do they have to go back on the previous weeks 1 and 2 and do that? The answer is no. You can start this week on week 3. And what do we work on? You work on reading and math diagnostics, and that's found in the diagnostic arena. And I have some shout outs. A big shout out to Arizona. She's having 4 kittens ready to open up their eyes, and Tanner's baby cousin is about to be born. So that's some great news, and I know we're all looking for some great news. So all of that came from your responses in the daily check-in form. Okay, we'll go ahead and get started with the instructional video for week 3. All these lessons, remember, are numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Remember, you have to do 5 of the 7. And this choice board is all you're responsible for doing. Anything else is optional. So, also, you will find all of these resources that I'm referencing in this document. It's titled 4th Grade Learning Choice Board for weeks 1 through 3, week 3 resources. And I've also included the playlist and all of the scanned lessons, a link to all of the things that you're going to see here. So let's go ahead and get started lesson 1 is to read 20 minutes and write a summary. But we're going to start on lesson 2. So on lesson 2, you have to write a paragraph that explains the central idea from this article using at least 2 details to support your response. So we're just going to go ahead. I've already read this article, and so the first time I read it was just for the gist. I just wanted to, see what it was about so I could determine and ask myself, what is this whole article about? So I read it a second time, and I thought, what is this whole entire article about? And I found that this article was about that sumo wrestling was traditionally a male-dominated sport, but now that Japan is starting to slowly accept females. So that was what I thought the whole entire article is about. So I read it a third time where I wanted to read closely for details. And as I did that, I used my highlighter to highlight and to make some notes if I wanted to. So as you can see, I did that there. Now, for week 2, I felt like the thing that would help me the most was my say, mean, matter. What does the text say? What are the details? What does this mean? And why does this matter? So I did one for you as an example so you can see how to do this. So my first one, I used my sentence starter or my transition word that according to the text, female sumo wrestlers are not accepted into the sport because it is based on tradition, although many girls are still competing as amateurs. And I found that right from the text, and I found that right here. Now, what does this mean? I used the transition. I can infer that females are showing a desire to wrestle even though they're not treated equally. And then why does this matter? This is important because, and that's my transition, in order to be considered an Olympic sport, females must be allowed to participate. So that was what I thought it was one explanation for the central idea. Now, you can do 2 and 3 so that you can have enough details in order to thoroughly explain your central idea. Now, when you go to write your paragraph, you always want to start out and make sure that you name the article. So the central idea in the article: in Japan, sumo is a man's game, but female wrestlers are pushing for their way in, and by the Washington Post is. So then I would put my central idea there, and then I would use my say, mean, matter chart that I've completed in order to finish writing that paragraph. Now, it should be very easy once you've completed this in order to do that. Now, in ELA Week 3, Lesson 3, it asks you to write a story where one of the characters has a problem. Well, the best way you can do that is to write your story is to first use a story mountain. Now, we've done this in class at the beginning of the school year, but I went ahead and did a story mountain for you so you would to refresh your memory about how to do this. So, at the beginning, you want to build a background. Now, remember, stories are structured by beginning, middle, and end, and they have story elements such as character, setting, and you have a plot, events, solution, and then you also have theme. Those are story elements. So in a story mountain, you first want to begin by introducing your setting and characters. Then you have events where you introduce, this is called the rising action, where you introduce your events, your problem, conflict, or your issue, whatever that might be in your story. Now you have those certain events that all the way rise up that lead to the climax, which is where the problem is at its highest point. And then that is where your story takes a turn. It's the turning point of your story. And this is the plot. This is happening in the middle of the story. Then you have your falling action. And this is where your characters work to solve the problem, your issue or conflict, whatever that might be. And then these events are how that you're coming to a solution. And then finally, it ends in a resolution at the end of the story. And that is where the problem or conflict, where it is solved. And there you can add in some theme, which is a moral or lesson to be learned from the story, like what you want your reader to learn. So I have underlined the story elements here so you know where those go, and then also how you can build a story using a story mountain.